Hey, it's Raquel from Out of the Past, and I recently made a video of my top 5 picks for the 2016 TCM Classic Film Festival, and this is a follow-up video to tell you what I thought of those events. And I was very lucky on this trip, and I managed to get to almost everything that was on my schedule, including these top 5. So I thought I'd just, sit and chat and tell you what I thought of them. So my number 5 pick in the video that I made was The Afternoon with Carl Reiner. It took place at the TCL Chinese Theater, and when I went, the line was so long. It went from Grauman's Chinese Theater's courtyard through the Hollywood and Highland Mall, all the way through the mall, through the back to where the Starline tours are, around the building, almost to Madame Tussauds. So it was a pretty long line. I finally got there, and so I stood in line with Jay from the James Bond social media project, and I was literally stuffing my face with food and waiting for my number so that I could run by the book I Remember Me from Larry Edmonds, because they had a little table at the front. And then so I got my number, I ran, got the book, came back, and finally we were seated. So I basically did like 2 loops around the entire building. So finally we were seated, and I had to go to the bathroom, and thank goodness for my small bladder, TMI, sorry, but I went to the bathroom, and guess who I walked by? Carl Reiner himself. And this is why I do a hashtag called always go to the bathroom, because at the TCM Film Festival, a lot of my great experiences seeing people were because I had to go to the bathroom. So I walked past Carl Reiner, then on the way back, of course, I had to walk by him again, and that was great. So he did sit and watch the movie before the whole Afternoon with Carl Reiner's event started. So that was cool. And we saw Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid from 1982, which is a hilarious spoof on film noir, great comedy starring Steve Martin, and this is a Carl Reiner film, like through and through. It's co-written by Carl Reiner. I think Steve Martin also wrote it too. It's produced by Carl Reiner. It's directed by Carl Reiner. It is Carl Reiner's in it. He plays one of the characters, and it's just such a funny movie. It's also Edith Head's last film that she worked on, and Carl Reiner discussed that a little bit, and that was really interesting. And George Gaines is in it for like a split second. He doesn't even have a talking role. And George Gaines passed away earlier this year. He's better known as Henry Warnemont in the show Punky Brewster, which I personally love that show. So that was kind of fun just to see him in that. So after the film screening, they did a tribute video, which is something they did for various stars, and they do a really good job, and they kind of made them a little different this year. So the one that they did shows, Carl Reiner's career and like just all the stages of his career, and it had one really good clip of him with Conan O'Brien, and they're taking a selfie, which is it's a selfie, but one of the 2 people in the selfie gets really in front of the camera, and so it's selfishy because you are being selfish and you have more of the shot in your face, and I thought that was so funny. And so after the tribute video, Ileana Douglas sat and talked to Carl Reiner for about 45-50 minutes, which is actually a really long time because most of the interviews are maybe 10-15 minutes. So the fact that we got to sit down and hear Carl Reiner tell stories for 45 minutes was fantastic. And a lot of the stories he told were actually in I Remember Me, so if you haven't read that book, do so. And it was great. He talked about his career. He got a little political at one point. He talked about how he loved Twitter, and after when he tweeted after the event, it's funny, he counted the laughs during the talk, which I thought that was so charming that he did that he actually took mental note of all the different types of laughs that he got and what the number were. So that was great, and I'll have a full report about that soon. And afterwards, there was the book signing, which was in the foyer of the TCL Chinese Theater, which wasn't the best spot to have it, and some of us had purchased books before and some not, so they really should have had a "you bought your book already" line and a, you know, "you still have to buy your book" line. And then at one point it was going on so long that they were trying to, you know, like get us out of there. But I got my book signed, I got to talk to Reiner briefly, and I got a selfie with him, which was fantastic. So that was my number 5 pick. My number 4 pick was the Francis Ford Coppola hand and footprint ceremony. That is a sacrifice in time. You have to basically give up the first 2 blocks. But those are so much fun. There weren't that many special guests, and there weren't, like, the actual ceremony itself was pretty short. Francis Ford Coppola's son did a short speech beforehand. Francis himself did a speech, although at one point he was getting a little confused, like he had like a funny joke and he couldn't remember. But other than that, like, you know, oh, and also Ben Mankiewicz was the MC. So there were a few speeches. Last year, Christopher Plummer's ceremony had various speeches, and Christopher Plummer had this beautiful, eloquent one. So that one was totally different from this one. This one seemed maybe more casual. And Francis also seemed a little nervous, which I was surprised about. But he did the hand and footprints, and there's a lot of media there. This year we got a really great spot to see it. Usually we're like in the corral on the side, but this time we were right by the photographers, which is such a great view. And Peter Bogdanovich was there too. He was a special guest, and John Landis was there. And there's some great moments of Francis Ford Coppola and Peter Bogdanovich posing in front of the cement, and that was great. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it's a moment in history, and it's an opportunity to be there to really honor somebody who's made a contribution to the film industry. And usually the picks for the TCM Classic Film Festival that unite with that are really good ones. So they pick really good people for this honor. So that was a lot of fun. My number 3 pick was the Band of Outsiders, and included an interview with Karenina, the Danish-French actress, and that was so fantastic. I was surprised that it wasn't completely sold out. We sat at the very front to see Karenina, like right here, and that was great. And then once the movie started, we just sat further in the back to get a better view, because otherwise you're like, while trying to watch the movie. That was really good. I loved the interview. At one point I was like, Karenina is sitting right in front of me. And I was like, okay, I'm not really paying attention. I gotta pay attention to what she's saying. But Ben Mankiewicz did a really good job asking her questions. Most of them are about Jean-Luc Godard, which was expected, but I thought Karenina was very charming, and she got a couple standing ovations, and she seemed very moved. And at one point I said, "We love you, Anna," and she looked at me, she was like, "Thank you." I was like, what? I thought I dreamed that, but it did happen. Someone confirmed it to me, so that was great. That was my number 3 pick. The film I had never seen before. It was screened at almost 10 o'clock at night. I wasn't quite awake, so I'm gonna have to watch it later. I think if you haven't seen an Anna Karenina film, this is not the best point to entry. You'd want to watch like A Woman is a Woman or something, but it was really just wonderful experience. I'm definitely gonna sit and try to watch the movie later without the whole, you know, like festival high, seeing Anna Karenina high, you know, in my brain, and then also with maybe a fresher mind. So my number 2 pick was the Vitaphone presentation, which was at the Grauman's Egyptian Theater and was presented by Ron Hutchinson of the Vitaphone Project. What's really cool about that, these are movies, these are short films that were made over 80 years ago, and that theater was packed with maybe 600 people who wanted to watch them. That's one of the fantastic parts of the festival, is that you have all these people who are just so incredibly excited to see these really, really old movies. So it started with a presentation by Ron Hutchinson about the history of Vitaphone. That was really interesting. He had a slideshow, and then he showed 7 shorts. And the one that I was really excited about was the Beau Brummels from 1928 or 29, I think it's 28. That film I love so much. I've seen it so many times. I had to hold back from singing along. And out of the 7 that they showed, I really think that one got the most audience response. People were laughing, they were cracking up. And I was just in my element. I even like took out my phone and took like a quick picture just to commemorate. Like I mean, it's how crazy, like this short that was made almost 90 years ago, actually, if you think about it, like 88 years ago, is on a gigantic screen in a packed house of people just cracking up. And I just thought, you know, people in real life won't understand my love for the short, but people in that audience will. So that was really, really special. So I had a lot of fun going to that. And then my number 1 pick, which was a documentary that I've been talking to everybody who will listen to me and annoying everybody about, is Harold and Lillian, A Hollywood Love Story. And that was immediately after the Carl Reiner event, and I thought I might not even get there because the book signing at the Carl Reiner event took so long. So I like hoofed it from the TCL Chinese Theater through the Hollywood and Highland Mall. I was running down because they were already seating people, so I was running down the aisle trying to get there, and I waved to the TCM staffer, TCM volunteer. And I was like, "This is my number 1 pick. This is my number 1 pick." So I got in. I didn't get like the best seat, but I wanted to really sit in front because I wanted to be closer for the interview portion, which was at the end of the screening. So guess what? Had to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom, and guess what happened on the way back? On the way back, there was a bunch of people at the entrance of the theater talking. And guess who was there? Danny DeVito. The actor Danny DeVito was there. He is executive producer on the documentary. He's in the documentary as a talking head, and he was really good friends with Harold and Lillian Michelson. So I was not surprised. In fact, I was even thinking, maybe they'll have Danny DeVito there. And among that group was Lillian Michelson herself, who I just met like a day or 2 before, director Daniel Rame, and Jennifer Rame, who was a producer. So they were all there together, and I was like, this is so fantastic. This is so surreal. The fact that I got pitched to review this documentary back, I think, in November. And I was like, oh, I couldn't go to the screening in New York City. I was like, I will watch it at home and I'll review it. And I loved it so much. I took 10 pages of notes when I first watched it, and then I watched it again and fell in love with it. And I was like, why don't more people know about Harold and Lillian Michelson? And ever since November, when I reviewed it, I've been telling everybody who will listen to me about it. And I had no clue at the time that I would be at the Classic Film Festival, watching it on a big screen, getting to meet the director, getting to meet the producer, getting to meet Lillian Michelson herself, and then getting to see Danny DeVito introduce the film. It's just, it was surreal. It was surreal. It wasn't a packed house. They put it in a really bad time slot, so it was in competition with a lot of big things. But there was a good audience, and so as I said, Danny DeVito introduced it, and he got a little teary-eyed. You can tell that he has like a real love for Harold and Lillian. So he got a little teary-eyed. I thought that was very sweet. He had a sweet introduction. So they showed the film. At the end of the film, there was not a dry eye in the house. Everyone was tearing up. Even I was. I had already seen it twice before and I was already crying. So the lights went up, we were all like wiping away our tears, and then Daniel Rame, the director, and Lillian Michelson came out, and of course Lillian got a standing ovation. It was fantastic. And you can tell that everyone in the audience really appreciated that documentary. And they had a brief interview and a brief Q&A, and it was just so great. It was a wonderful experience. I feel very lucky that I was able to go to the top 5 picks. Sometimes I have, you know, a schedule all laid out and I'll miss several things because I'm not feeling well, got sold out, you know, whatever. But this time, health was on my side. Luck was on my side, and I had a blast at my 5 picks and a blast going to pretty much everything I went to at the festival. Anyways, thanks for hearing me talk about my experiences, and I'll see you next time. Bye!